And I would really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
All right, Coos County, Oregon, America, and beyond. What can I tell you? What a beautiful day we are having here on the coast. It's a little windy, but that's to be expected. Springtime is here, and we are going to have all those wind fluctuations going on out there. And I want to thank all of you who are joining me right now. It's going to be an interesting show. I was scheduled to be on Facebook, but believe it or not, as I had warned, Facebook has finally disabled my account. I was posting an event that we were going to have, and all of a sudden this notice came up and said, your account has been disabled on Facebook. And so I don't know if they've gotten to my pages. I don't know if they've gotten to just my profile. I have no idea because, you know, they don't give you any information. It's like when you post something that breaks their social content or whatever they call that, and they don't tell you what it was that you posted that violates their rules. And I love when they do that. It's just another way of screwing you over because you can't defend yourself. So I've got to go back and I got to appeal it. But for some reason, they have disabled my Facebook account. And, you know, I had warned about this, and I imagine eventually YouTube will be the same. YouTube will eventually shut me down. And so you'll only be able to catch me on X and Rumble. And then I'll go on to Patreon and a couple of other sites that are a little bit better for not kicking people off just because of their views. And, you know, I am controversial. I do have a lot of opinions out there that people just don't like. A lot of powerful people just don't like the things that I say. And I'm going to continue to say them. They're not going to shut me up. They're not going to shut me down. And if I get kicked off of one platform, I'll just move to another platform. And this is part of why many of us are trying to build the parallel economy. It's why Truth Social was created, which was created by President Donald Trump. And he created Truth Social so that he couldn't be canceled the way he was canceled on X before Elon Musk took X over when it was Twitter. And so this is something that's going on in a lot of places. I'm having my website redone on another platform that will not shut me off because I know the owner of the platform. And so I'm redoing my website, and I'm going to be redoing some logos and stuff and moving on to different things. But I'm not going to tolerate being told what I can and cannot say. I don't know about you, but I'm a fucking American, and I know I may have offended some of you, your sensibilities out there, some of you who are sensitive to those curse words, but that's what it feels like. I am an American, and I'm not going to put up with being silenced, and it just infuriates me. And I mean, this just happened 15 minutes ago. 15 minutes ago, I'm sharing an event on Facebook, and all of a sudden they say, hey, Rob, screw you. You have been disabled. You're completely unable to make any more comments on your profile. And it's a profile that has been there probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And so I'm just absolutely disgusted by the actions of a corporation in America who is practicing these type of uh, scores on people, basically telling you if you don't match what we want for what society is supposed to be, meaning that you say things that are not woke, if you say things that are not politically correct, we're going to shut you down. And I, for one, am not going to tolerate it. In 2020, we saw this happen on a huge, major level to a lot of people. And I don't know. I At that point in time, I knew we were going to have to create a parallel society, a parallel economy, not really so much a society, because you can't really step out of society, but you can do business with people who aren't going to tell you what to say and when to say it. There are business owners and corporations out there who are not going to tolerate this themselves. They don't believe in communism, they don't believe in fascism, they believe in the American Constitution, where the First Amendment of the American Constitution is the freedom of speech. And so I'm just ticked off that I just got kicked off of Facebook. I can't believe this. Hopefully they'll reinstate my account. I'm going to have to appeal it, but that's where we're at today. And I hate when I have to go with openings of a podcast when I really don't know what's going on. And so I wasn't really ready as to what I was going to say, but there are many things I want to talk about today. And one of them wasn't this Facebook thing, because really in the scheme of things, what is it? What is Facebook? I mean, I have like 4,000 friends on Facebook, but in essence, I maybe only know 100, possibly a couple hundred of those people. Actually, if I saw them in a restaurant, I could possibly be able to point them out. So really, in essence, 3,800 people on Facebook are just that, Facebook friends. They're in the internet, and they really don't mean much to me, because and I don't mean that in a callous way, that they're not worthy of everything any human is deserving of. I just mean that, to me personally, I don't know them. And so, really, what is Facebook? I mean, it's just a place to try to get your word out, try to get your material that you produce out to the public. And so we'll be, it just ticks me off that I had to start this show on a completely weird note. It was just weird, but it's sometimes it's Monday, but it is election day. I hope you got your voter's pamphlet. I hope you got your ballot. I got my ballot still. I always like to wait. Until the very last day to make my decisions. Yeah, that's and I'll tell you what, it's we're going to make a lot of really good decisions there. Yeah, and I hope you made your good decisions. I hope you voted for the right people. If you want to check out who I was voting for and who I wasn't voting for, go back to my Rumble page. And there was a show just a couple of weeks ago that I did talking about the choices I made from the voter's pamphlet and on my ballot. And so if you want to go check that out, I highly recommend you go check that out. I also didn't get a chance to put out word about my special report that I did. I believe it was last Wednesday or Thursday. So also, if you go to Rumble, look up the special report show. And it's a show that I did talking about some of the really crappy actions of the Republican Party of Douglas County. And you just got to check it out. It's unbelievable. But I do want to remind you, please go out and vote. Go out and vote, because that's one of the most important things you can do as an American citizen. And one of the second things that I highly recommend people do is that you get out and you rally for the things you believe in. You rally or you protest, and I mean that in a peaceful way, not as in a leftist peaceful way, mostly peaceful, where you go out there and burn down buildings and take over colleges. No, I'm talking in a real peaceful way where you respect other people's rights to travel. You don't block up the roads. You don't burn any buildings down. You don't harass people. You don't get in their face. Most of the time, I just recommend people get out there if they want to rally and protest. Take an American flag and try to coordinate your signs. That's always really cool. And if you're looking at the screen right now, that's our no windmill sign. That was Me and Diane Rich designed that, and we designed that for the purpose of doing these protests and rallies, not because we think that we can change the mind of the federal government. The federal government, as they told us many times with many other through many other different bureaucracies in many other situations, such as the band in Marsh. This is what one bureaucrat told us from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. He looked us in the eye and he says, we are from the federal government and we are going to do what we want. And I'll tell you what, I really wanted to shove my foot up his ass. I literally wanted to hold him down and try to shove my foot up this guy's ass after telling me we're from the federal government and we're going to do what we want. And that's the attitude of a lot of bureaucrats in federal agencies. And I don't know about you. I get sick of that attitude, but you just expect it now because this is what tyrants do. And being part of the deep state, which most of these bureaucracies, and especially the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the BLM, the U.S. Forest Service, which the U.S. Forest Service is under the Department of Agriculture. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is under the Department of Interior. And all of them are nothing but branches and tentacles of the deep state, something that we have to fight on a constant basis. Well, of course, one of these bureaucracies, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM, B-O-E-M, is planning on destroying our fishing industry here in Coos County and also down in Curry County by putting in these windmill projects. One of them is going to be off the coast of Coos Bay, and one is going to be off the coast of Brookings. And you're not going to really be able to see these windmills, but they're going to be there nonetheless because they're going to be about 13 miles off the coast. And they're going to be in water that's about 4,000 feet deep, I think is what they said. I'm not so sure about that. I'll have to check with that because that changed a little bit. But they are going to be about 13 to 18 miles off the coast of Brookings and Coos County and our Coos Bay and parts of Reedsport. I mean, the call area in the ocean that's 13 miles off from Coos Bay, that goes all the way to Reedsport. And it's a huge area. It's a beautiful, pristine part of the ocean, and it's really going to destroy our fishing industry, which has been under attack from many different, the Department of DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality. They've been under attack by other agencies in the federal and state government. Why? Because the government hates you. They hate me. I don't know why. I don't know what I did to these people. Maybe I wasn't nice enough to them. You know, it's funny. I give them money every year. I give them a buttload of money, and yet I'm still not nice enough. I guess they're not going to be happy until they get the fillings from my teeth. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know what's going to make these people happy, but I do know this. Since we can't change the mind of the government, of BOEM, of the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management Agency, then what we need to do was we need to make it uncomfortable for all those corporations who are trying to lease these call areas that were created by the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. And I will have the names of those people probably next week because we're going to do a whole show on the windmills, and we're going to do a part of that on election integrity. But I would highly recommend that you go and on Memorial Day, come out to Coos Bay. Actually, it's not Coos Bay, to Gold Beach at the county courthouse, high noon on Memorial Day. That's right. I know you want to be out on your back lawn, barbecuing with the family and all that good stuff. I wish I could be too, but I would ask you this. It's just a couple of hours. Okay. It's 3 hours tops on the coast of Oregon, and at high noon in Gold Beach at the county courthouse, we're going to be down there with our American flags, and the sign that's on the screen right there says no windmills. On the other side, it says no wind turbines, and it has a big red circle around the turbine. And we are trying to make it, first, we're trying to get people to know, notified on what's going on. That's the most important part, because there's a lot of people who don't know anything about these windmills going in. And secondly, we're trying to put public pressure on the businesses who are trying to lease those areas. We're going to make life so uncomfortable for them. We're not going to do anything illegal. We won't burn down their headquarters. We won't attack them in restaurants, but we might protest on the sidewalk outside their businesses because they'll probably have to have headquarters here. These different corporations who are going to be leasing these call areas, they're going to have some facility here. And we will be protesting those facilities. So we want to show them that we're going to take our Memorial Day and we're going to use our Memorial Day not as a barbecue day, not as a day with our family, but a day fighting against the windmills. And I would personally like to invite you out. Come down to Gold Beach at high noon. This is Monday, May 27th, 2024 at the Curry County Courthouse. And that's on Highway 101. And then at 1:30, because I can only stand for about an hour and a half. I'm not like one of those young 20-year-old Antifa kids who lives in his mother's basement. No, I'm a grown man and I can only stand for about an hour and a half. So for about an hour and a half, we will be at Gold Beach at the Curry County Courthouse in Gold Beach. And after about an hour and a half at 1:30, we're going to head down to Brookings, Oregon, which we're going to go to 711 Chetco Avenue. And at 2:00, we're going to stand there for an hour and a half. So this will all be done from high noon all the way to 3:30. So 3.5 hours. And then you can go and enjoy the rest of your day. That's all we're asking. We're just asking people, help us show the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management and the corporations who want to lease the call areas that have been created by the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, show them that we're not going to take their bullshit. We're just not going to take it. We're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore. So please come out to these rallies that we're having, because why? It's important. It's very important. And if they understand that we're going to make life uncomfortable for them, not going to attack them violently. It's all going to be peaceful, all going to be legal. I demand it that way. And yes, if you start burning down buildings, we will stop you. And so no Antifa. No, please, no Antifa show up. But we are asking that regular citizens give up their Memorial Day, and not all day, just between high noon and 3:30. I mean, you at 3:30, you can get home by 4:30 and you have time to barbecue. It's light until 8. So it's going to be a beautiful day. I highly recommend it. And a lot of my friends are going to be there. A lot of people you might know if you've been to our rallies before. And so I just recommend it. And you can go to our Facebook page on Oregonians Against Wind Turbines. Oregonians Against Wind Turbines is a Facebook page we created so that people can get the information they need to contact the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. And by the way, they're going to be having a meeting. BOEM is going to be having a meeting next Thursday. And if you go to robtaylorreport.com, you can check that out on how to get the link to watch that meeting on your computer. You don't have to attend. You don't have to go anywhere. All you have to do is just click in to the meeting and you can watch it right there on your computer screen and learn about this project, because a lot of people don't even understand what's going on here. It's a very complicated issue, and it's best that you do watch these meetings. You get the technology and terminology that they use for these projects, so you sound a little more intelligent when you're arguing with your liberal friends. Your liberal friends, yes, they want to use their own farts to power cars. These are the crazy people you're talking about. Yes, the EVs out there. And this is just one way you can fight against it. And once again, go to robtaylorreport.com. Check out my blog page. And on my blog page, you'll see the little emblem of the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, and just click that on and you can go to the meeting, because I got a link to the virtual meeting that's happening next Thursday. And it starts at 9 in the morning, I believe. So definitely go over there and check that out. But that's just some local news that's going on. We were playing Where's 3H Tree Service. I haven't got a notice from Matt Holman yet. And let's see. I'll give him a little text out there. Where are we with the game? Any winners? No, let's see. No. Any winners? and put a question mark, and let's send that off to Matt and see if, and anyone who's not familiar with our game, Where's 3H Tree Service, if you live in Coos County, there's a sponsor of mine called 3H Tree Service, and they go out and they cut trees on a regular basis, 6 days a week usually, and they work very long and they work very hard. And so on Mondays when we have the show, we play a game called Where's 3H Tree Service. And if you can find 3H Tree Service, and we start it before the show starts because they usually get done now before the show even starts. And so normally we're just announcing the winner. So I don't even know if we have a winner, but Matt Holman, who is the owner of 3H Tree Service, if you find him out cutting trees, you can win $50. And this is happening in Coos County, and we'll give you hints. And as soon as he chimes in and lets us know if he's still looking for a winner or not, then we can let you know if someone has won the game. And we only have one round every Monday. And I think we've had a winner every Monday for the last couple of months. So it's been pretty good. It's been a pretty successful game lately. And that's Where's 3H Tree Service when we normally play around, and hopefully he'll chime in. I can get him on the air and we'll see. But I just sent him a text message and we'll see what's happening. But there's a lot happening out there. And I want to talk about some national things that are going on because, you know, we got a crazy president. He's a crazy man. He's also a funny man. You watch him, you know, I don't know what's more disturbing, to watch Biden and to realize this is our president. This is who's leading the free world. And it's scary as hell. It's scary as hell to realize this man who craps his pants on a regular basis can't even get through a full sentence. He's having a problem speaking. He has a problem with his memory, and it's because he's old as God. He's nearly as old as God. And yet he has made a challenge. He has challenged Donald Trump to a debate. And I wanted to play that video because it's one of the most edited videos I have ever seen for such a short video. I think it's a video that's only 14 seconds long. And it's, well, I'll let you.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
I want you to watch that again. And while you're watching it, check out how many cuts are in this video. Like I said, I think it's 11, 12, 13 seconds long. It's not very long at all. And just watch how many cuts are in this video. I wonder how many times did it take them to actually complete a full 11-second video. And
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Yeah, and he always has to slide that slide in against Donald Trump. Oh, I hear you're free on Wednesdays because, you know, you're on trial because we're practicing election interference by creating lawfare and going after all of the things you might have done or could have done or shouldn't have done, and we're going to make accusations and put felon attorneys up there who've been convicted of lying to courts anyway. We're going to put up Stormy Daniels, you know, the porn star, and she's not really even a porn star. You know, she's not even a porn star. She's just a porn person who was in a few porns, and I don't know if you could really qualify her as a star. The only reason she's a star is because Donald Trump, and she got to meet Donald Trump. She got a selfie with Donald Trump. Do I know if they slept together? I haven't a clue. I really don't even care. I don't really care if Donald Trump took her to Mar-a-Lago and bent her over the counter and screwed the hell out of her. I don't care because it's his personal life. I don't want people to judge me by my personal life. If you want to judge me what I do in my political life or my business life. My personal life is just that, my personal life. People shouldn't be bothering with other people's personal life, and that's why this is a whole disgusting thing. Really, all this trial is about, the one with Cohen, the one with Stormy Daniels. It's about how he reported his expenditures for the attorney, and it's semantics. Really, it's just semantics, and it just blows my mind that this is even going to trial. But it was great. You just saw Biden's challenge. Now here's Donald Trump's response.
But they said to me the other day, sir, CNN with fake tap, and he is a fake, but let's see how he does. I think he's under a lot of pressure, to be fair, but fake Tapper is going to be heading up the team that interrogates you. I said, that's okay. I accept the debate. I accept it. You know why? Because nobody thought he was going to debate. They didn't think I'd accept it. I accept. Then another one called. They put out another one. I said, I accept. They didn't even tell me where it was, who it was. I didn't care. What the hell difference does it make? I mean, you know. So we did something that they were shocked at. They had no idea that, you know, they figured, well, we're not going to do CNN, and we're not going to have Tapper be the guy. And we're not going to have other people involved in that show that, you know, they thought there was no negotiation. I said, I accept anything you want. Let's debate. And now they're shocked. They don't know what the hell to do because they have a debate. But just remember this. We'll go back and finish. You know, there is a genius to what I'm doing. You do know that. I go from here to there, and it all comes back into a beautiful picture. You know, it really, do you notice? It all comes back into a beautiful picture, great memory. It's a beautiful thing. But remember what they're going to do. If this horrible, low IQ individual who's representing us, if this horrible person who's done such a bad job, worst president in history by far, if this horrible individual finishes the debate, which I think he will, if he's standing, they'll say it was a brilliant performance. It was a brilliant performance. They've never seen anything like it. Very much reminiscent of the days of FDR. You know, FDR was...
All right. And I got some news for you. First off, isn't that beautiful? It all comes back around. It all comes back around. I mean, that Donald Trump, he's a genius, and he really knows how to play to the audience. And I agree with him. Sometimes I do the same thing. I'll start speaking about something. I take you somewhere else. I bring you back, and I try to tie it all together in the end in a nice, lovely little bow and present it to the audience in a nice little package. And that's what trying to connect the dots for people is all about. And it's exactly what he was saying when he was giving that speech. And by the way, he did that speech. It was like an hour and 40 minutes at the NRA, which I'm not a big fan of the NRA. I mean, it's the National Rifle Association has lost their reputation. They lost their minds. And it's very sad what has happened to an organization that, as far as I'm concerned, wasn't always for your Second Amendment rights. Yeah, they did a lot of compromising through the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. And, you know, that's why I myself, I support the Gun Owners of America. I think Gun Owners of America is a much better group. But I do got a quick announcement that I have to make, and that is that I just got a hold of Matt Holman, and he says that they're wrapping it up. They're done, folks. And so they may actually play this game tomorrow. I won't be part of it because I'm not going to be here on the podcast, but they may play this game tomorrow. So tomorrow, if you're out and about, if you check the Facebook 3H Tree Services Facebook page and you're in Coos County, you could possibly be able to win $50 by finding out where's 3H Tree Service. Where are they? Where did they go? I don't know. You need to find them. But 3H Tree Service, you can get them at 541-294-1800 if you need to get some of those trees taken out. But they're going to possibly play this game tomorrow. Have to check their Facebook page. Go to 3H Tree Service. On Facebook, check out some of the latest videos that Matt has done. He's always good about doing those things. He's always an incredible man. And so that's some of the things that I just have to report on because, well, if I didn't, I wouldn't be doing my job. You know, there's so much going on in the world today. It's, you know, I just talked about the election with the opening of this show. And, you know, in Congo, we had a couple of Americans who were just arrested for trying to attempt a coup in the Congo. And, you know, in the Congo, they actually still have slavery going on. They are selling men and women to different mines, people who own diamond mines and other type of mines in the Congo. there's people actually being sold in the Congo to these diamond mines and these rare earth mines. And this is going on today. So I could understand why someone might attempt a coup in the Congo. And then you have in Iran, you have the president who just went down in a helicopter. And we were just talking about that for lunch. And of course, everyone, you throw out these conspiracy theories. I mean, it just may have been an accident. I don't know. Or it could have been Israel. Israel has a real good reason to want to take out the president of Iran. Maybe it was America. America might have played a part in taking out. And this was my conspiracy theory. The Ayatollah is still in charge. He's the religious leader. Maybe he was upset. Maybe he wanted the president of Iran to marry his goat, and the president of Iran said, "No, I will not marry your goat." But the Ayatollah was pissed off because the guy wouldn't marry his goat. And so, well, he, made sure that helicopter went down. I don't know. They do weird crap in the Middle East. Very weird crap. It's a third world country with very strange rules. And I personally don't want them coming here in the hordes, in the crowds that are coming here from the Middle East and bringing that type of attitude to America. Because if that's, if you ever seen what they're doing in Congo, if you ever see what they do in the Middle East with each other, if they want to come to America and be Americans, that's great. But there's some weird stuff that they do in the Middle East, and there's some weird stuff that they do in the Congo. And personally, I just don't think that we should be inviting so many of them here when we don't even know who the heck they are. But that's, just some of the international news. I mean, you still got the war in Ukraine going on. That's a hell of a mess. That's a hell of a mess. And of course, they're trying to expand NATO still. And I personally think America should get out of NATO. Why are we in NATO? I have no idea. I say nada to NATO. Nada to NATO. We don't want it. You keep it. It's yours. Defend yourself, Europeans. And, people are going, but Rob, isn't Putin a horrible guy? Isn't Russia being very tyrannical? Yeah, that's what they do in Eastern Europe. They're not good people over there. And I don't know if Zelensky, the guy who's in charge of the Ukraine, I really don't think he's in much better at all than Putin. I think both of them have some severe problems. And we've been messing around. When I say we, the American government has been messing around with the politics in the Ukraine for a long time. And so, we were already involved before this whole thing went to a war. So I personally, I'm tired of it, because I'm tired of watching those commercials of those young soldiers on TV who've lost legs, who've lost arms, who've had most of their bodies burned. I'm tired of watching those commercials. And I think the best way not to have wounded soldiers and have to give to Wounded Warriors, a great group. If you're going to give money to anyone, I do recommend Wounded Warriors. And because they take care of our soldiers. That's why they take care of our soldiers. But I don't think we would have to take care of so many of those soldiers if we weren't supporting foreign wars so much. And the first thing that the politicians always say, oh, don't worry, there are no boots on the ground, no boots on the ground. Well, that's a lie. Anytime they tell you there are no boots on the ground, that means there have been boots on the ground probably for the last 10 years. So don't ever believe what the American government says. Why? Because they're liars, and they like lying to people like you and me. And so this whole Ukraine thing that's going on, absolutely ridiculous. If you're flying a Ukraine flag, you might ask yourself, why? Why are you flying a Ukraine flag? That's just crazy. You should be flying an American flag. But then there's Israel. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. They're the only, truly westernized country in the Middle East. And yet, it's still something that if they're in the middle of a war, I don't think it's our job as U.S. citizens to take our money and support Israel. If we want to do it on a private level, any private level that people want to support Israel, I support your right to do that. But personally, as a taxpayer, I don't want to be supporting Ukraine, and I don't want to be supporting Israel. I think that we shouldn't be creating more and more debt and spending money that we don't have. We're $35 trillion in debt. We don't have the money to defend our own country. And we're not defending our own country. Just go look at the southern border. Go look at the northern border. There's no one stopping anyone from coming into this country. And yet here we are defending the borders of Ukraine. We're defending the borders of Israel. And it's infuriating to people like me. I'm sure like many of you who are taxpayers. We're just getting fed up. We're getting tired of this. So, and Hamas is a horrible, the Hamas, the terrorist group, has taken over Palestine. And the Palestinians over there, all they have to do is get rid of those guys and Israel wouldn't attack them. I know that there are crazy people in the streets right now of America yelling, kill the Jews, kill the Jews, you damn fascist. That's right. They're calling us fascist as they walk through the streets. Kill the Jews. Why? Because that's what leftists do. And leftists are fascist. I mean, you do know that the Nazis were the National Socialist Workers Union and Workers' Party, and so that's what Nazi were. They were National Socialists. In fact, if you go back to Germany, to Weimar, it's the Weimar Republic. It was the International Socialists fighting the National Socialists. They were both, socialist. One just wanted to take their movement international, and one wanted to be more racist and be more nationalistic. And so that's what was going on in Germany back in the early 30s. And, we now have these crazy people yelling in the streets and all these colleges saying, kill the Jews, burn the Jews. They're burning American flags. They're burning Jewish flags. And I'm disgusted by it. It's just horrible how we have gone in this country. I just look at what's going on in this country. And then you've got leftists who are supporting this garbage. And they support burning the American flag. They support burning the Israeli flag. But yet if they see their own flag, they get upset about it. And I was on TikTok, not TikTok, actually, I was on Twitter, which is now X, and they were on TikTok and they took a video off of TikTok. And I kind of wanted to share that with you guys because, well, sometimes things are absolutely crazy and I think you have a right to check it out. And so this was a screenshot that I got from my X page. This is my X page on the screen right there. And I just wanted to play this video view of this liberal in Florida. This is the typical attitude of the liberal beta male in Florida.
I'm here enjoying a nice day at the beach with my kids. And I turn around. I got these flags planted here on the beach by these MAGA fucks. Listen, this is all America. We know you didn't storm the beaches to stake out your territory on the beach. This isn't the fucking moon. I get it. This is America. But I'm sick of my flag being represented by white nationalist trash on a goddamn beach. Go fuck yourselves. And here.
And so there you go. The crazy guy who is on X telling you that you're MAGA, you're a bunch of cretins for having your flag flown on the beach. It's your freaking beach. It's your flag. Take some pride in your country. I mean, this guy, this is your typical average liberal. That guy you just saw in the video, that's the guy you'll run into when you're at the mall. Maybe his kid is on your kid's baseball team and you got to sit next to him on the bleachers and listen to him or worship. That's the guy. That guy you saw in the video is the guy that always gets on the plane and sits next to you and then bitches the whole time. And you because you don't want to cause a mid-air incident, you don't beat the living crap out of this piece of garbage. And that's, he would be complaining about the president driving by with flags on his car. It's just, this is the type of guy who if he saw them on the college campuses burning Israeli flags, burning American flags, he would be cheering for that. This is what he's all about. But no, you bring a flag to show your pride and set it up at the beach while you and your American family are on the beach, and all of a sudden you're the problem. Right. This is this is sad where our country is going. I mean, you name me any other country where if you were in France, you were on the French Riviera and you took a flag, your French flag, and you'd flown it on the French Riviera. Do you think people are going to have a problem with this? If you were in Brazil, let's say you were in Japan, any country that has beaches, and you took your flag to the beach for the day, do you think people of that country are going to be upset? Oh, hey, take down that Japanese flag. How dare you? How dare you? You insult me. Burn it now. We must burn it. What the hell has happened to our country? And scumbags like that exemplify much of the problem that we're having with our country. And to get back to these debates that the president, see how I'm going back again? See how I'm taking that back in the circle? The president has to deal with people like that guy you just saw in the video. He has to deal with people not only probably when, because he probably flies first class. He probably doesn't have to deal with them at the airport. But, at some point in time, he probably runs into these crazy liberals and stuff. And that's one level. That's one level. You and I have to put up with these people in public. But another thing that we have to do is we have to, and you and I, maybe not so much if we're not in government, but if you're an employee with the government, there are a lot of leftists that you have to work with. There is no doubt about it. And I feel sorry for people who work on a city, county, or state level who has to work with these leftist cretins. And when I say leftist, I mean people who want bigger, more expansive government, people who are fascist, socialist, communist, you name it, any of the collectivist group. That's who I'm talking about when I talk about leftists. And, I know people who work for Coos County, and they're good people. They're conservative people. Somehow they got into the government. And now they have to work with people from the Coos Health and Wellness Department. And people in the Coos Health and Wellness Department, a lot of them are a bunch of leftists. And they have, they're the type of people who want to use certain pronouns. They want to push the diversity, equity, and inclusion crap down your throat. And so I feel sorry for county workers who have to work with these workers. And the reason I use Coos Health and Wellness is because I know a lot of the people in the leadership of Coos Health and Wellness, well, they're a bunch of far leftist freaks, man. And they have some radical beliefs. I know people will say I have radical beliefs because, I believe in things like the U.S. Constitution. Crazy, huh? But these leftists, I feel sorry for people in the government who have to work with them. But here's where it gets even worse. There are a lot of these leftist goons who are working with bureaucracies who are going to take their authority, who they're going to take their positions of power, and they're going to use them against conservatives. They're going to use them against people who are constitutionalists, people who maybe are libertarian in belief. And we know this is happening because we see it all the time in government. And I've seen it happen at cities. I've seen this in the city administrations. I've seen this happen, like I said, on the county. I've talked to people who are in the government, who are conservatives, who and not even just dealing with other people who are employees of the county, but dealing with people who are also state employees that county level people have to deal with. I mean, there are some radical people that you have no choice. If this is the job, this is your vocation, you have to deal with these people. So that's one level, that's the second level of having to deal with crazy leftists, other than the guy on the plane, like I was talking about earlier from the video, the guy who got mad because there were flags on the beach. And when you're in government and you have to deal with these leftist scumbags, that's one thing. But then you've got some of these scumbags who are going to come after you because they don't like your politics. And it's not that they don't like you. Maybe they don't like you. Maybe you don't bathe enough. Maybe you use the wrong pronouns. I don't know. But there are leftists who probably don't like you. And so people are going to go after these people. And so you got to be careful when you're in government, because there's a lot of crazy leftists. And, that's like I was talking about the parallel economy earlier. You got to be careful in life. I just got kicked off of Facebook. Who knows why? But there are people who get kicked off of social platforms all the time. Why? Because they believe in the Constitution. They're libertarians, they're Republicans, they're conservatives, whatever. Well, just imagine taking that to the next level of having to work with some of these same people when you're in the government. And people who don't think that's happening, I've got news for you. It is happening. And there was oh gosh, now I'm having trouble. There was a video that just was released about an employee of the Federal Reserve who not only is he opposed to Donald Trump, but the guy who runs the Federal Reserve is opposed to Donald Trump. And I thought that I would play this video that would show you some of the people in government. And this is just one guy that they caught on camera. And James O'Keefe, the name just came to me. James O'Keefe and his new organization has caught a guy from the Federal Reserve talking about how they want to get Trump. And I just put that video, I just put a 2-minute clip together because I wanted to show you this and show you how horrible it must be to work in the government and to have leftists come after you and your position in the government, because I'm sure it's happening all the time. I'm sure there's a lot of people, like I said, even on just the county level or the city level, who are living in fear that other people might find out, other people who are leftists, who are, you have to work with, might find out that you're a conservative. And I could understand why, if you are a conservative and you do work for the government, if you're, like I said, a constitutionalist or libertarian, you might not want to go on social media. You might not want to go out even in public so much advertising that you do believe in the U.S. Constitution, that you are a conservative. And this is happening. And James O'Keefe caught this on tape.
Right now, I'm preparing for something. I'm going to do a talk to the Fed board.
Meet Harel Hizmo. He's a principal economist working inside the Federal Reserve.
So you write speeches for Powell?
Yeah, like for certain paragraphs. I'm just really worried that I'm saying stuff like stuff that's classified.
Do you deal with classified stuff?
It's all classified, right?
Quote, it's all classified.
It's all classified. Trump is a crazy person. It's very clear. I mean, he's a dumb guy.
Does he hate Trump? And is the feeling neutral?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Yeah.
And Trump was president. He wanted to stimulate the economy.
Right.
But he wouldn't do it. And he started raising interest rates, doing the opposite that Trump wanted. So, so the feeling is this, that we don't want Trump to be in government.
Right.
Harel Hizmo, principal economist with the Federal Reserve, says Jerome Powell wants to go down in history as someone who, quote, held the line against Donald Trump, unquote.
He's doing it for the legacy. He wants to be remembered in history as somebody who held the line against like Trump and somebody who helped the economy.
So he wants to preserve his legacy as someone, even though he's Republican on paper, Democrats still love him. Yeah,
because he's responsive. Under Powell, the Fed has changed to think about equity issues, like racial issues, think about wealth inequality as part of the mandate, as part of the things we're following. Think about climate change.
Harel Hizmo says, quote, people think conservatives are dumb, and that the, quote, Federal Reserve would discriminate against those conservatives depending on how out there they are.
People think they're dumb.
Would they be discriminated against?
It depends on how out there they are.
So there you go. There is a perfect example of someone in government who's trying to go after Trump. Powell, he claims to be a Republican, yet the liberals love him. Why? Because he talks about diversity, equity, inclusion. He talks about racial issues. Equity is always a big one. We got to make everything equitable, and which means we got to take what you have and give it to people who don't have what you have, but they have what you have now, because we're going to make it equal. And by equitability and being equitable, and equity is not about equality. It's about taking from those who produce and giving it to those who don't produce. It's a good example of that are the bums and drug derelicts who are walking the street, and they take they take people who are out there working hard to earn their money, the producers, people like you, and they're taking your money and they're giving it to these scum on the street who just want to party all day. They just want to blow their minds with fentanyl. I don't even understand why we give out Narcan to first responders. Why do we give out Narcan to first responders? If someone is trying to kill themselves, we are an assisted suicide state. So why don't we just assist them in their suicide? Because if you're doing fentanyl the way some of these people are doing fentanyl every day on a constant basis, doing more and more and more, then you're trying to kill yourself. And I say, let's assist them. If they OD, then let's assist them in that overdose, and let's stop giving them Narcan. And that may be cruel, but the leftists are cruel. You just watch the guy in this video talk about how he wants to destroy Trump just because he doesn't like the way he thinks. We don't like the way you conservatives think, so we're just going to destroy you. And you could see that in the attitude of the first video I showed you of the guy on the beach who was upset about the American flags. And you can see that attitude in the guy who works for the Federal Reserve. And he's like a top economist in the Federal Reserve. This should scare the shit out of everyone, especially if you're a person who's working for the government. If you work for the government and you got slime balls like this who are in positions of power who are coming after you, you may not even know that they're coming after you, and they may be sabotaging your career without even you knowing it. Because why? They found out you're a libertarian, you're a conservative, you believe in the Constitution, and God forbid that you believe in any of those values. If you're not a leftist, which is, like I said, the leftists, they're the fascists, the socialists, the communists, collectivist ideologies, all of them. And if you're not one of those, well, then you are targeted. You are targeted by people that, thank goodness there are groups out there like this gentleman who goes out there and James O'Keefe, who's out there with, he used to be with Veritas and now he's with another media company, his own media company. Thank goodness he's still out there exposing these people. Because Americans have short-term memory. People in general have short-term memory, but Americans, because, we live on a quick quip. You know what I mean? We see comments, we see 30-second blurbs, we get 30-second commercials. We seriously have a short-term memory problem in America. And that's why it's good to constantly see and be reminded that there are enemies, your enemies. You don't even know these people are your enemies. That guy that's on the beach who's mad about your flag, he's your enemy. The guy who's working for the Federal Reserve who wants to destroy the career of Donald Trump, he's your enemy. Because get this, if he wants to destroy the career of Donald Trump, and so does his boss, Powell, who's in charge of the Federal Reserve, if they want to destroy Trump's career, what do you think they're going to do to an underling who is also a conservative? What do you think they're going to do to an underling who believes in the U.S. Constitution? Of course, I don't know how you could work for the Federal Reserve and believe in the U.S. Constitution, because it's neither a federal nor is it a reserve. So it's the whole name of the agency, the Federal Reserve, is an oxymoron. And by the way, a lot of people don't know that. They talk about the Federal Reserve as if it's a part of the government, but the fact is that we give money to the Federal Reserve to print money. It's a very weird thing. And then they set interest rates through a collective means and through a central authority over all the other banks throughout the United States, and they set those interest rates. And it's just nuts how we've created this quasi-government, private, public agency, the Federal Reserve, to literally control our economy. And then you have scumbags like I just showed you in the video. Thank goodness for James O'Keefe. Thank goodness he's out there exposing these people. That's what I'd like to do. I would like to do that, but Coos County is a small county, and if I went around in disguise, I probably couldn't disguise myself well enough. I'd go up to Benetti and I'd ask him questions to try to catch him doing something wrong and you go, Rob, really, that snidely mustache on your face just isn't fooling me. That's the kinds of things that you would have to deal with in a very small county. I mean, I could do it in Albuquerque. In Albuquerque, there was about 1 million people. So I could probably do it in Albuquerque for a little while, and then people would start recognizing you. But thank goodness James O'Keefe actually has an organization where there are people who work for that organization to catch scumbags like the guy from the Federal Reserve, that top economist, and show the rest of us, because we have short-term memory loss all the time, and show the rest of us that there are people in places of power who want to destroy us. It's true. This is a fact. And so in 2020, the Marxist revolution was in the streets. It was marching in the streets, and they were yelling that they were Marxists. They were putting up their fist of solidarity. And they had no problems or qualms burning down federal buildings, pulling down statues, attacking private businesses. And then it turned from rioting into group theft, where they were just going and stealing everything from stores. And all of this is costing us. This is why the price of everything has been driven up so expansively. And so thank goodness there are people out there like James O'Keefe who are still exposing the people in the government who are continuing this Marxist revolution, and then getting back to the kids in college and most of them don't even attend these colleges. These are just, most of them are like middle-aged men, like the guy who I just showed you the video, the guy on the beach who was bitching about the American flags. Guys like him who are going to college campuses, pretending to be in college, and writing there, demanding the complete abolishment of Israel, the state of Israel, and saying kill the Jews. And yet they call me the fascist. They probably call you a fascist too. So these are just some of the things that I'm glad James O'Keefe was able to expose, because without him, I really don't know what we'd be doing, because there's a lot of people who just don't believe us. And if you got people in government who are working under the radar, who are working behind the scenes, who are attacking people, and the people they're attacking may not even know they're attacking them. That guy from the Federal Reserve, he may be doing that to other fellow employees, and they might not even know it. How do you know that this isn't happening in your job even if you don't work for the government, you work for a regular corporation? How do you know if and a lot of you work for woke corporations, how do you know one of your coworkers hasn't found out about you? Maybe you're a conservative. Maybe you're libertarian. Maybe you believe in the Constitution. Maybe you're a patriot. How do you know that one of your coworkers hasn't found out about you, and covertly they're now trying to destroy your career and you don't even know it? I mean, I've seen that happen, because in business, there are different jealousies, and people will get mad at other people. Say someone is getting a promotion who is competing against several other people. Have you ever seen that happen in a corporation? I myself have been up for a promotion where there were several other people up for the same job that I could be promoted for. And it got really cutthroat. You know what I mean? It made us better employees, because boy, we started showing up on time. We started volunteering for overtime. We started doing extra work. We were extra with the please and the thank yous and the yes sirs and the no sirs. And, we were working really hard. There were several of us who were candidates for a supervisor job where I used to work at. And I got the job. Maybe I did enough yes sirs. I don't know. Maybe I kissed enough butt. I don't know. That's just how you get promotions in today's world. And how do you know that now? And maybe I shouldn't say today's world, because they don't promote people on merit anymore. They promote them because you're black or you're a lesbian or all those other qualities that people have that they have nothing. They're immutable qualities. They have nothing to do with the skin color you're born. If you're gay, I would imagine most people who are gay are born gay, and it has nothing other to do that they were just born that way. And so I don't know how people are promoted today. I'm not in the corporate world anymore. But if you are in the corporate world and you have people who you're competing for the same position. Maybe you're not even competing for the same position, but you're just trying to further your career. How do you know that the guy next to you isn't one of these crazy leftists, like the guy in the video that James O'Keefe exposed from the Federal Reserve? How do you know that that guy, there might be one of him sitting right next to you, or the desk next to you, or the cubicle next to you, who's trying to sabotage your career? I'd be really worried in today's corporate world. But then take that to the next level. What if you're a county employee or a city employee or a state employee, and you're a good conservative, you're a good constitutionalist, you believe in the American way, you believe you're a patriot, and you're just doing your job, but things don't seem to be going okay? Can you honestly say maybe the reasons that it's not going okay is that there's some leftist who's trying to sabotage you, trying to hold you down? I'm glad I'm not in the corporate world, and I'm glad I don't work for the government, but I feel sorry for many of you who are and who do work in these areas, because I would seriously be worried about that. And so, this is how I'm just bringing it around. Trump and Biden, they're going to be having those debates. I showed you the debate that Biden made the challenge. I showed you Trump's response. And then I showed you the James O'Keefe video of people who are trying to sabotage Trump. So Trump accepted the debate without any conditions. Why? Because that's how bad Biden is. Biden is just a bad debater, bad person overall. He's a bad leader. I mean, if you're going to debate Biden, it's pretty much hands down, you'd have to be a freaking moron to lose a debate against Biden. I mean, just his record on the economy, his record on the border, his record on race relations, his record on the growth of government, his record on his handling of foreign policies. Under Trump, we didn't have a war in the Ukraine. We didn't have a war in Israel, and China wasn't thinking about taking Taiwan. So it would be very easy to debate Joe Biden. And so that's why Trump said in his video, it don't matter. Because it doesn't matter. And in essence, it doesn't, because no matter what moderator or where they hold the debate, more than likely the person, even if it's at Fox News, especially if it's at Fox News, it doesn't matter who they are, because they're going to be against the president. If they're in the media and they're part of the leftist media, because 90% of the people in media are Democrats. They're part of the leftist cabal that's running media today, running journalism today, if you could call it journalism. Yellow journalism, maybe that'd be more appropriate. So I just think that no matter what Trump does, he's going to squash Biden, and it really doesn't matter where he's going. But hopefully these same problems that he's facing with so many enemies in the deep state that's attacking him, hopefully they're not attacking you. And I really don't have any answers for you, but I did want to remind you to watch your back. Keep your head on a swivel, because you may have enemies out there that you don't even know. They might even be very nice to you to your face, but you may not know that they're your enemies. And so I would be leery of that. I would worry about that. And so that was my whole point with the debate. There is something that Biden did this week that it's about time someone did. And it's something that is near and dear to my heart, because when I was a young man, this was in my 20s, in my 30s, I had a lot of friends who smoked dope. They smoked marijuana. Oh my God, I smoked marijuana. And I'm sure a lot of you who are watching the show, you probably smoked a little dope in your time. I'm willing to bet, just a little. I know we were all virgins. We didn't drink. We didn't smoke. We all went to church on Sunday, sometimes Wednesday and Friday too. I know we were all pure of his heart, pure as the driven snow. Well, I wasn't, and I'm willing to admit that. And I had a lot of friends who smoked pot, and some of them went to jail. You know, I see conservatives all the time. Oh, nobody goes to jail for pot. Yeah, I had friends who went to jail for pot. I had a friend who went to a year in jail because he got caught with an ounce. I had friends who once the drug war started, they stopped, sending people to jail because the jails were getting full of druggies. They started sending them to drug court, and drug court was actually worse than prison because you'd go to drug court, and as long as you passed all the drug tests, within a year, you would be released. You would have a deferred sentences. In some states, they would just take it off your records. In some states, they wouldn't charge you and put you in jail as long as you went through drug court. And I had friends who would go through drug court and they would smoke a little dope. And because, like I said, we weren't virgins, and they would smoke a little dope, and then they would have to do a drug test, and then they would get a year tacked on to drug court. And I had friends, I had one guy who got busted with an ounce. And if he just would have told the judge, screw it, send me to jail, he would have served about 8 months in jail. That's about all he would have served, and he would have been out. But no, he thought, I'm going to take the easy way. I'm going to do drug court because, the drug prohibitionists, they think that if they take you and they put you in a room and they don't allow you to have any drugs and they give you all types of this treatment, and I'm not even sure what treatment it is. I don't know. Maybe they hold your eyes open and make you watch The View. I don't know. Maybe that's what they do. I really don't know what they do in drug court. But I had friends who went to drug court and went through drug diversion camps, and they would get busted because they would smoke a little dope and they would fail the drug test. And I had a friend who went through drug diversion process for 4 years. If he just would have went to jail, it would have been 8 months and it would have been over with. But no, he got caught. And of course, he went to diversion court for 4 years. And after 4 years, the last year, he was able to stop smoking pot. And so he was able to become a drug counselor. And I'll tell you, there's nothing worse than a converted druggie who's now a drug counselor. They're usually the worst prohibitionist out there. And, they lecture you. It's like people who are sometimes some reborn Christians. And I don't want to pick on Christians here, but you guys know who I'm talking about, who nonstop proselytize you. You're a sinner. You're going to hell. Nonstop. Like my Catholic grandmother. And some of these people who'd go through drug diversion camps, they would become these very pious, self-righteous, sanctimonious former druggies who are now preaching to the rest of us who are still smoking pot and didn't get caught. And I never understood why we did this in America, because marijuana, as far as I'm concerned, it's not even a drug. It's a plant, and not any different than tobacco. And I'll tell you what, I've known, I could probably name off 20 people who I know who've died of tobacco, of smoking cigarettes. I don't know anyone who's died of secondhand smoke, but I know at least 20 people in my lifetime who have died because of cigarettes, or know of people. And my uncle and my father right now, they're on oxygen. They got tubes up their nose. They walk around, and much of that is because they smoked cigarettes all their life. And I always joked, well, if you smoked a little pot, maybe you wouldn't have this problem, because I don't know too many guys who are in their 70s and 80s who smoked pot who are now on oxygen. There might be a few. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, and I'm not glorifying the use of marijuana. In fact, I think sobriety is a noble thing to achieve. And I think that if you do achieve it, that's great, but just don't preach to the rest of us who might be drinking or smoking or whatever. And so I thought it was great that Biden came out this week. And I'm going to show you the video of his policy speech that he just made. And it's a little bit better than his challenge to Donald Trump. It's not nearly as edited as that 13-second clip, but I wanted to show you.
This is monumental. Today, my administration took a major step to reclassify marijuana from a Schedule I drug to a Schedule III drug. It's an important move toward reversing long-standing inequities. Today's announcement builds on the work we've already done to pardon a record number of federal offenses for simple possession of marijuana. And it adds to the action we've taken to lift barriers to housing, employment, small business loans, and so much more for tens of thousands of Americans. Look, folks, no one should be in jail merely for using or possessing marijuana, period. Far too many lives have been upended because of failed approach to marijuana, and I'm committed to righting those wrongs. You have my word on it.
So now, if you you saw that video, I know it's Biden, and we know why Biden has lowered marijuana from Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug. And it's not because he's a benevolent person, because Biden was the meanest, strictest drug prohibitionist out there. He's also a gun prohibitionist as well. And he has a record of passing laws that put a lot of my friends in jail just because they were drug users or they smoked pot. And like I said, there were people who went to jail for smoking pot. They had a law in Texas, 2 joints, 10 years, 10 for 2. It was the 2 for 10 laws. That's it. The 2 for 10 laws in Texas. And they would confiscate your vehicle. You would be at the lake, the cops would come and they would find pot on your person or in your vehicle, and they would confiscate your vehicle. They were confiscating houses for pot. I mean, I know there's probably a generation of Oregonians who are going, really, for pot? No, that's legal. We smoke it now. And my generation didn't get to be fortunate enough to live in a more enlightened society that we would try to get people to the nobility of being sober or sobriety through other means. Of course, we did it through imprisonment and coercion and taking away your cars or your houses. And so I watched that for a long time. And Joe Biden is not being benevolent. He's a piece of crap. He's down in the polls and he needs people to vote for him. And a lot of potheads, well, a lot of them, they're just like you and me. They're patriots, they're conservatives. And I know this because I've smoked a lot of dope with a lot of good conservatives, a lot of good libertarians, a lot of good patriots, people who still believe in the American way. I smoked dope with them. And they went to work every day. They did what they had to do. They raised family. They didn't have other drug problems. They just like smoking pot once in a while. And I don't see anything wrong with that. So I'm glad Biden finally did this, because there are a lot of people who still today are, who are being, their past of criminal records are still living with them. And hopefully with taking the marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, they get rid of all of those arrests of people. Like, I'll give you an example. David Brock Smith was arrested several times because he was caught with pot. Now, I never said anything about that during the election because, once again, that's his private business. And I think if you smoke pot, it's not something that's going to make me vote for you or against you. It's your actions otherwise, usually in the political arena. But David Brock Smith was caught twice with an ounce of pot. And I would defend him any day of the week, even though I don't like the guy. I would defend him in his right to want to put whatever he wants in his body, especially if it's just a plant like marijuana. And so I never talked about that during the election. And maybe, I probably maybe shouldn't have done that now, but circumstances the way they are, I have to talk about that because there are a lot of people who have suffered consequences because they couldn't go get the job or pursue the jobs that they wanted because they had criminal records. Why? Because they got caught in Dallas with a joint 20 years ago. And I know this happens. I know this happens to a lot of people. And I'm glad finally one of the presidents came to his senses. But the problem is that the marijuana movement, and I was part of the ending the war on drugs, and most of that was about marijuana and cannabis. And so we used to hold events. We used to have marijuana marches in Albuquerque, and I was the organizer. And I would get about 3,000 people on the streets of Albuquerque, and we'd be on the sidewalk with our signs, and we had rules. I mean, when we would march all the way to downtown Albuquerque, and we'd march back up to UNM, the University of New Mexico. And we'd have, like I said, 2,000, 3,000 kids, and they'd have their drums, their horns, their flags, and waving all their signs. And it was a hoot. But we had rules. First off, you don't block up people in the traffic. If you do, we pull you out of the streets ourselves. You don't burn down any federal buildings. No, we're peaceful. We're pot smokers. We're supposed to be peaceful. And you certainly don't cross the street against the light. We would stop people and we would have them cross when the crosswalk would allow people to cross. And then we would stop the next group of people until the light changed. That's how respectful we were. Times have changed. And that's because the communists have capitalized on the marijuana movement, especially in states that still have a lot of draconian laws against marijuana possession. So I wish Trump, and this was something I was hoping Trump would have done in his first presidency, if he would have been a little bit smarter here. He's a genius of a man, but you know, even geniuses make mistakes. Trump should have rescheduled marijuana. I know his brother was a druggie and an alcoholic, and his family is, you know, his brother, I believe, died because of, I forget if it was drugs or alcohol, but you know, he had problems in his family with people with substance abuse. But marijuana, nobody's died of marijuana unless someone was throwing a bale of it off a truck and you got hit with it and was killed. That really, nobody has died of marijuana. You can't overdose on it. And, you know, the only thing that's in danger if you are on marijuana is maybe a box of Twinkies and a bag of Doritos. That's probably about the only thing that might have to worry from a pothead. They're not violent, not like alcohol. And I was a supervisor most of my life in my careers. I was either a manager or a supervisor, and most of my problems came from people who used alcohol. There, you know, once in a while, it might be a druggie of someone who used too much meth, too much coke, and couldn't maintain while they were at work. Then there was the people who were the alcoholics. Pot smokers didn't even hit my radar. And I lost a lot of people because during the 80s and the 90s, the businesses would come in and they would demand drug tests. And I would tell the management, well, if you give drug tests, I'm going to lose good people. And they would say, well, we have to do it for insurance purposes. We have to drug test them for marijuana and all these other substances. And I tell them, look, the alcoholics, they'll just stop drinking 24 hours ahead of time and they'll pass the drug test. But the marijuana smokers, they could have smoked marijuana a month ago and that marijuana would remain in their system. And sure as heck, the management wouldn't listen to me. They'd force people in my crew to take drug tests, and I'd always lose my best workers. It used to tick me off. It really ticked me off. And I still believe that businesses have a right to drug test. If you own a business, you should have a right to drug test. I think it's stupid for businesses to test for marijuana, but if they want to, that's their choice. I just don't think they should. And I think that removing this demonization of marijuana by scheduling it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 is a great idea. I just wish Trump would have done it. Because this is what the communists do. They take one issue and they take that issue, and that issue is not about the issue of marijuana, ending marijuana prohibition. That's not the issue that communists are worried about, because the issue is always about the revolution, the communist revolution. So they will exploit every other issue for their only issue, which is the communist Marxist revolution. And that's what they were doing with many of the people who I used to work with to end prohibition back in New Mexico. It was the big thing we did. I worked with Governor Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson wanted to end marijuana prohibition. I was a governor's advisor. And it was at a time when I was highly active in politics. And yeah, I used to advise to a sitting governor, a very conservative sitting governor, a guy when he left office, left with a balanced budget, one of only 2 states with a balanced budget in the United States. The guy also, while he was in office, this is Governor Gary Johnson, he won the New Mexico Triathlon. He was an Ironman. And he didn't drink caffeine, anything with caffeine in it. He didn't drink sugar. It was kind of annoying. He really, it was always hard to get a hold of him because he was always working out. But when you did get a hold of him, it was great to talk to him and advise him how to talk to the legislature on ending prohibition for marijuana and easing the laws on many other drugs, because there were a lot of bad laws. I mean, there were some laws that if you got caught with small amounts of cocaine, you could go to jail for longer than murderers or rapists, and it would destroy your life. And we didn't think that should happen to people who somehow started developing bad habits, but especially with marijuana. So don't let anyone ever tell you that people didn't go to jail for marijuana in the 80s and the 90s. They did. I know some of those people by name, and I won't name them here. So I wish Trump, under his first presidency, would have done what Biden just did and lowered the schedule of marijuana. In fact, I think the federal government has no business. If you read the Constitution, there is no business for the government to prohibit anything such as a plant. I mean, they had to create a full amendment to outlaw alcohol during alcohol prohibition, and which was a huge failure. Alcohol prohibition was the biggest failure, but they tried drug prohibition. And one of the guys who was the leading cause of this was a gentleman by the name of Harry Anslinger. And Harry Anslinger, he's right there on the screen if you can see him. Harry Jacob Anslinger. He was a fascist. He was a fascist of his time, but he was an American government official. He served as the first commissioner of the U.S. Treasury Department's Federal Bureau of Narcotics during the presidencies of Herbert Hoover, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Harry S. Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and John F. Kennedy. He was a supporter of prohibition and of the criminalization of all drugs and spearheaded anti-drug policy campaigns. But one of his major causes was to end anyone's ability to get their hands on marijuana, which was ridiculous because marijuana has been used by many different cultures as a medicine. And, you can call it marijuana. I prefer to call it cannabis, which comes from the word canvas because the original canvas material was made from hemp. It was made from cannabis. And so canvas, the word cannabis came from the word canvas. And so this is something that started a long, long time ago. This is something that started during alcohol prohibition when they were looking to prohibit a lot of things. At one time, they've actually discussed in America prohibiting the use of sugar or prohibiting the use of caffeine. They actually had debates in the U.S. legislature on prohibiting these substances that we use every day on a regular basis. And it's unconstitutional unless they passed an amendment to do it. But Harry Anslinger, he was trying to get a congressional amendment passed so that he could outlaw marijuana. He hated marijuana. And there were reasons why Harry Anslinger wanted this, is because he was a racist. Here's a quote from Harry J. Anslinger. Reefer make darkies think they're as good as white men. Yes, because we don't want those darkies thinking they're good as white men. We don't want them darkies out there smoking a little dope and hanging out with the Watts women. We don't want that to be happening. Yes, Harry Anslinger was a racist. And much of the reason that marijuana was targeted by the U.S. government was, number one, he worked for the U.S. Treasury. And because marijuana is grown like a weed, because it is a weed, you can't really tax it. There ain't much to taxing it. I mean, you go to Kentucky or Tennessee, you still might see marijuana growing wild on the side of the road because they used to grow hemp and sweet leaf marijuana back in the day. I mean, it wasn't as strong and as pure as what we're smoking now, but they used to grow it. And of course, the black people who tended the fields, who harvested the fields, well, they would sometimes smoke the marijuana. And of course, we got to get rid of that. Why? Because, well, we don't want the darkies to be, thinking they're as good as white men. And so drug prohibition, especially marijuana prohibition, really was about racism. It was about this guy, Harry Anslinger, who not only was a self-righteous, sanctimonious bastard, but he was a racist on top of that. And, that's just part of our history. We did have racism in our country. But you know what? There were a lot of people who weren't racist. There were a lot of people, especially white people, who also smoked marijuana. And so this was a stereotype that was created way back in the 30s. But the fact was there was probably just as many white people smoking marijuana as there were black people. And so, this is just the mind of a racist who thinks these type of things. And here was another quote from Henry Anslinger. He says, there are 100,000 total marijuana smokers in the U.S. The most are Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers. Their satanic music, jazz, and swing result from marijuana usage. The marijuana causes white women to seek sexual relations with Negroes, entertainers, and any others. And once again, that just goes to show you how much of marijuana or cannabis prohibition was based on people's racist beliefs. And I myself, I believe there's only one race, the human race. And we are all different colors in the human race. We are all different ethnicities and different colors. That's just how the good Lord made us. That's just how nature has made us. And so when I see people like Harry Anslinger saying these types of things and then having the authority, the power, and the position to make laws or help create laws that put guys like me in jail because, I work very hard every day. I go home, I want to smoke a little dope and lighten up. I find that disgusting. And I find it even more disgusting that they do it based on the false premise that this is a black man's drug or a Hispanic man's drug. It's not. There were just as many white people smoking marijuana back then as there were any other group of people. And, there was a lot of what I would call marijuana propaganda. This is one of my favorite. In fact, I've got this picture hanging on my wall. Someone gave it to me when I used to do the marijuana marches. Someone gave me a poster, this poster here, where it talks about Reefer Madness. We used to go watch Reefer Madness in the 80s. It was a movie. It was a propaganda movie made to scare people off from smoking pot, especially white people. We got to scare the white people. We got to scare them smoking this demon weed, because the blacks will come around and get your women. And this is the nonsense that was going on back in the 30s. It was based on a racist ideology. And this is something that is, just ludicrous. And like I said, just because Harry Anslinger was a racist, just because there were a lot of racists in society, doesn't mean everyone was a racist back then. I would say the majority of them weren't racist. I think that most people knew that life came with humans of all different flavors and colors. And so this is the type of propaganda poster and the movie that they put out, Reefer Madness. If you've never seen the movie Reefer Madness, I highly suggest you go check it out. It's hilarious how they portray people on pot. Nobody on pot acts the way that they acted in that movie. And this is just one of the posters, but they had a lot of propaganda back then. Marijuana, weed with roots in hell. It's going to cause weird orgies, wild parties, and unleashed passions. I'll tell you what, this poster here wouldn't actually make me stop smoking marijuana. In fact, I think posters like this would encourage people to smoke marijuana, especially men, because they're thinking, wow, if I could smoke a little dope with a couple of my girlfriends, we're going to have wild orgies and weird parties, or weird orgies and wild parties. I don't know. But if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, there is a syringe. And on the syringe, it says misery. I can tell you right now, in all my years of smoking marijuana, not once did I ever use a syringe. I've never used a syringe to put any drug into my body because, well, that's gross. I don't like needles. And in fact, if you have to get high by sticking a needle in your arm or anywhere else on your body, you might want to rethink your drug usage. But I tell you what, I smoked a lot of pot way back in the day, and never once did I use a syringe. So that shows you that these type of posters, not only is the entire movement based on a racist idea, But they didn't even have the right conclusions to draw from people who used marijuana, because nobody was using a syringe to put marijuana in your body. You rolled a joint, you put it in a pipe, and you smoked it. It was crazy. Here's another movie that was created back then, The Assassin of Youth. If you didn't know this, the word assassin actually comes from the word hashish. And apparently this is what I've always heard, that and I forget which, I can't remember, it was India. I think it was India, that they smoked hashish, and the trained assassins of the day who worked for the king, they smoked hashish, and somehow the word hashish, or the word assassin, came from hashish. But this is another movie. This is a marijuana puff party tragedy, of course, because, you go to a party and women would smoke a little joint, and then they would be doing like what this chick's doing at the bottom of the poster, getting naked all over the place because she smoked too much dope. And I'll tell you what, once again, for guys like me, that's not something that's going to discourage me from smoking pot. If anything, it's an encouragement. But that was a movie that was put out, The Assassin of Youth, back in 1937, I believe this movie came out. And then there's another poster here, if you're watching this, is A Vicious Racket with its arms around your children. Yes, your children who are choosing debauchery, sin, degradation, vice, insanity, because why? They might smoke a little bit of pot, and I got a good comment. Nunya Business is saying that the syringe was supposed to indicate that pot was a gateway drug, which really, I never believed that idea either, that pot was a gateway drug. Not everyone starts with pot. Some people start with cocaine. Some people start with fentanyls or pills. Some people start as kids when they play the choke out game. Did you ever play the choke out game where one of your friends would hold your neck and hold your neck until you were lacking of oxygen, and then you would pass out for a few seconds? Yeah, the choke out game. Kids play that. So there are a lot of games and things that people do to escape reality. So that whole gateway thing, I don't know if that's true or not, but I do think that the syringe on the marijuana poster is, well, pushing it just a tiny bit. Then here's where I got the problem with marijuana. Like I said, I've always been a libertarian. I believe in limited government. I believe in maximum freedom and limited government. And that's not what a lot of these marijuana protesters were being exposed to. Because like I told you earlier, the marijuana issue wasn't always about marijuana, because there were communists who came into the movement who wanted to make it about communism. And if you see this marijuana poster on your screen right now, at the bottom of it, between the leaf and where it says legalize it now, you'll see 6 fist of solidarity. That is called the fist of solidarity. It's a communist symbol. And there were a lot of communists out there. And in fact, if you remember in 2020, when Black Lives Matter was marching in the streets, and when you saw the group Antifa marching in the streets, you would always see them putting up the fist of solidarity. You can see that now with these crazy college kids who are protesting against Israel. They will have their fist up in the air, the fist of solidarity. That is a communist symbol. I can guarantee you half the kids who are doing it probably don't even know what the symbol means or where it comes from. But a good portion of those kids do know it's a communist symbol, and their symbol, and what they're doing is they're showing people that they are full on Marxist, and that marijuana may be the issue for a lot of people in the crowd, but the issue is about the Marxist revolution. And that was my problem with the marijuana movement, is that once again, I organized a lot of events. We organized concerts, we organized marches, we organized protests, but I never would allow this kind of crap into the event. As soon as the commies showed up, and a lot of these commies, some of them seemed to be paid protesters. As soon as they showed up, we would basically tell them, look, this isn't about your communist ideology. This is about marijuana legalization, and that's all it's going to be about. And so as an organizer, I made sure that people understood that if they were coming to our event. And once again, this just to show you how Marxism infiltrated the marijuana movement, here is another society, the Inspiring Women in Cannabis. I don't even know what the hell that means. Just smoke some pot, ladies. It's okay. And so the Inspiring Women in Cannabis, once again, if you look at the middle of this picture, there's the fist of solidarity of several different colored people. And this is why I just hate these damn Marxists. They infiltrate everything and they make it so evil. They make it so bad for people who are just doing this for the right reason. And like I said, pot is for the most part pretty much innocuous. You're going to get a little high and you're going to laugh a little bit, but it's like I said, you're not going to OD on it. You're not going to die on it. And it makes me mad these Marxists really took a good and pure movement and turned it into something really bad. And they continue that today. This is a poster I just saw recently it's where it says vaping is not a crime. And of course, they're making the fists of solidarity while holding a vaping pen. And so it always cracked me up because most of the people who own dispensaries today, most of those people are well, they're hardcore capitalists. They're hardcore capitalists, and they believe in the Constitution. They believe in the American way of life. Many of these business owners who own dispensaries, probably not that Lamoda group. That Lamoda group, they're probably a bunch of commies. I don't know. They're using capitalist endeavors to promote their communist ideology. But for the most part, most dispensary owners, even though they might be liberals, leftists, a lot of them are capitalists. A lot of them are conservatives. Yes, there are conservatives out there who smoke pot. And that's why many of us was hoping that when President Trump got into office, that he was going to schedule down marijuana from a Schedule 1 drug to a Schedule 3 drug. And so, I'm glad this is happening because now the Marxists can't exploit the situation or the movement or the issue so much. And I just wanted to give you that brief history because I thought that was probably one of the most important things that had happened to people of my generation in a long time, that we actually had a president who, even though he's a brainless, mindless man, maybe Biden actually smokes pot. If he doesn't, I would highly recommend that he should probably go smoke some pot. It might do him some good. But I'm glad that a president finally did it. I wish Trump would have done it. And it's happened now. There's not much of going back to that. And you're going to see across the United States that marijuana is going to become more legalized and regularized. And once again, not that I'm pushing marijuana. I'm pushing sobriety. If you want to achieve the nobility of sobriety, I encourage that. And I don't want to enable anyone who's a drug user. I hate it when we have people like the Devereaux Center here in Coos County who's giving blankets and food and tarps and sleeping bags to these drug derelicts who are going to go out and they're not going to appreciate what they have. They're going to leave it all over Empire neighborhood and other cities and just leave that garbage everywhere. We need to stop enabling them. But enabling these druggies, that's not going to stop their drug use. That's only going to encourage their drug use. And the fact is that most drug users, they're not those drug derelicts. Even though most of the drug derelicts on the street are there because of drugs, most people who use drugs, and you know this by the statistics, most of those people are hardworking people, and especially pot smokers. They go to work, they work hard every day, and they pay their taxes, and all they want to do is go home and smoke a little dope. I really don't care. And I'm glad this has finally happened in our country. And I'm just sad that it wasn't a Republican who didn't come to his senses and realize that it's better to do this. But no, I hope you all don't think that what I just showed you was me trying to promote the use of marijuana, even though I have a sponsor for the show who owns a dispensary, Herbal Choices. I think that's a choice of the adults, but we shouldn't be out there encouraging young people to go smoke dope, because you should have a mind before you get it stoned. And That's why I believe that all of those things, you should have to be 18 or over. I know in the state of Oregon, you have to be 21 or over, but I think that's even wrong. I think you should be 18. In fact, there was a lot of things that I would take down to 18: alcohol and marijuana use. I think 18-year-olds are old enough to make those decisions, and we should encourage them to try sobriety first. There's nothing wrong with it because it's harder to break a habit once you start a habit. So don't start smoking pot just because you might think someone looks cool smoking pot, or you think it's the cool thing to do. It's not. It's really not. And I'm not glorifying drugs. In fact, I wasted a lot of time and money doing drugs. I'll be honest with you, there were a few good times that I had while under the influence. But overall, all it really did was take a lot of my money, took some of my dignity, and took a lot of time. And living today in a more sober than ever before. And yes, I'll be honest, I haven't smoked pot in a while, but I don't drink much, and I definitely don't touch any hard drugs. I wouldn't touch today's drugs at all. And so I tried to live a more sober life. And I think that's, and I don't want to preach to you and say, oh, I'm better than you because I'm not. I'm just saying that it's noble to try to achieve sobriety. And we should raise our kids, not with that Nancy Reagan, just say no, that doesn't work. Or with the posters that I just showed you, telling them all these things that are not going to happen if they smoke pot, because you're not going to blow up if you smoke pot. You're not going to OD, but it's not that cool. There's really no glory that can come from being a dope head. And I can tell you right now, as someone who was a doper, who was a pothead for most of my life, there's nothing to brag about. It's not anything that's a great thing. And I think it should be legal, and I think it should be the choice of a consenting adult, but I also think you should try sobriety first. So please don't think I'm promoting it, because I'm not. I'm just saying that there are other ways to enjoy yourself than taking drugs. And I do believe that if you start drinking and you start smoking dope, that there's a good chance you might try a line of coke or try a line of meth. And if you start doing meth and coke, there at some point you might start using those syringes and shooting it up into your arm. It's not a good life. In fact, it's a horrible, horrible life. And I've seen it. I've got an uncle who's a junkie. He came back from the military, the Navy, as a junkie. He was a speed freak. And to this very day, he got out of the military in the early 70s. I mean, in the mid 70s. And to this day, he's still shooting up speed. I don't know how the man's still alive. And his children, two of them don't use drugs. They seen what drugs have done to their father, and they have chosen another way of life. His daughter especially has gone out and achieved great success in her career. So I'm not promoting drug use by telling you that I think drugs should be legal. I'm promoting the freedom of choice, even though I believe choosing to smoke dope or use drugs is probably the wrong choice for most people. You probably shouldn't do it. It might make you a little too paranoid. You certainly shouldn't do it and go out driving. You shouldn't mix guns with drugs. So there's a lot of things that I want you to understand. I'm not promoting anything except choice, even the right to make the wrong choice. And you know why that's better than having prohibition? Because giving government too much power in any area is a dangerous thing. Government has killed and destroyed more lives than any drug out there. Governments create wars. They create fake and phony pandemics, and then they create vaccines that are just as bad for you as the pandemic and tell you you're going to be forced to take them. That's government. Government, unfortunately, is a necessary evil. So the least amount of it is the best amount of it. Unfortunately, people like Harry Anslinger, he was addicted to power. And people who are addicted to power will need more and more government. They need more and more power, which means more budgets, more authority over your life. That's much worse than the drug use itself. So I'm not promoting drug use. I'm promoting the right of the individual to make choices, even bad choices. Don't make bad choices, but let's not empower the government to make those choices for us, because that's going to be much worse. Big government is bad, and it's worse than any drug addiction out there. And I hope that I explained it in a way that many of you understand that, because I'm not promoting it. And I'm just telling you my belief in a limited government and maximum freedom for the individual. The right, so much freedom that the consenting adult has the right to make the wrong choices. So that's pretty much my show today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm getting ready to get, of course, I want to give you some. There's a meeting. If you're in Coos Bay, Oregon. There's a city council meeting happening tomorrow. It's happening at the City Hall building. That's 500 Central Avenue in Coos Bay, Oregon. And it starts tomorrow at 6 o'clock, Tuesday, May 21st. You know, I looked at the agenda. Let's see, I got the agenda here. I was looking at the agenda, and there are a couple of things that if you're interested in what's going on in your city, you may definitely want to get out to the city council meeting. This is happening tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Let's see, National Public Works Week proclamation. I don't know why they need a proclamation for that. Oh, they've got another approval for a proclamation, a National Emergency Medical Services Week proclamation. Yeah, what a waste of time. But they are considering to pursue the acquisition of state surplus land. Now, the city owning state land might be a good thing, because I think that the state government is completely nuts, completely ran by a bunch of leftists, and I think the city council of Coos Bay might actually do a better job of taking care of land than the state does. So, yeah, I support the idea of acquiring state surplus land. So you may want to go talk to the councilors and the mayor tomorrow at 6 o'clock. This is Tuesday, tomorrow at City Hall building, and let them know what your views are. Maybe you have different views than I do. I don't know. But if you want the people who are in power to know, you have to go to the meeting. And, of course, tomorrow, the Board of Commissioners is having their meeting. This is at the Owens Building, 201 North Adams in Coquille. This is happening at 6 p.m. tomorrow. I mean, 6. That's wrong. I'm sorry. I got the wrong time. No, that's happening at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. 9:30 is actually when the meeting starts. So just ignore that time at the bottom there. I don't know why I have that. It's tomorrow, Tuesday, May 21st, but it's at 9:30 a.m. This is the BOC meeting. And I was looking over it, and they do have a timber sales. This is for the forestry department that may interest some of you people. You know, they're giving some job promotions out there, filling some positions. Let's see. They are talking about code enforcement ordinance modifications, and that's always important. I didn't get a real chance to see what the code enforcement ordinance, what they were trying to modify and what they were trying to do with that. But that's O on section 4. In section 4, look at letter O. That's where it is on the agenda. So that's happening tomorrow. And like I said, ignore that 6 p.m. time. That's actually happening at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow, Tuesday, May 21st. Once again, I want to thank my sponsors, 3H Tree Service. If you need to get some of those trees, you need to pull them out, 541-294-1800. That's the place to go. I think that they do a heck of a job, and they might be playing Where's 3H Tree Service tomorrow without me, which is okay. That's all right. And I encourage you to go to their Facebook page at 3H Tree Service and see if they are going to be playing tomorrow. But we'll be playing next week, Where's 3H Tree Service. And we didn't get a winner today, and that's why they're thinking of playing tomorrow. Tim never got back to me. I don't know where Tim's been, but Tom and Gigs, it's a great place to take your automobile to if you have any of those automobile needs. He can take care of that. He can work on your muffler. He can work on your engine, and he can align your wheels. If you need to have parts put on, he recommends you purchase parts from his industry or his business, and he'd be more than happy to put those parts on for you. That's his Tom and Gigs. They have those remote control RC cars, and of course they have Tannerite. You need some Tannerite? Yeah, that's great. They've got these great covers for your pickups. They've got great lights for your pickups. You need a light bar, go down to Tom and Gigs and check it out. I highly recommend it. Say hi to Tim. I need to go out there and see what he's been up to lately. And Herbal Choices, once again, I'm not promoting drug usage anywhere. I'm promoting the choice of adult individuals, consenting adults, who have the right to go out and choose if they want to smoke pot. And if they do want to smoke pot, I do highly recommend Herbal Choices. The owner of Herbal Choices, he's a capitalist. He's a conservative. He believes in the American way. He's a patriot. He's been going to my events here in Coos Bay for probably about 10 years, especially the Second Amendment events that we have had. He's a big Second Amendment supporter, and he also believes that you have the right, as a consenting adult, to choose what you want to put in your body. So Herbal Choices, they've got a store in North Bend, southbound 101, going northbound on 101 in Coos Bay. They've got an Herbal Choices store there. They've got an Herbal Choices in Reedsport. They got an Herbal Choices in Charleston, and they also have an Herbal Choices store south of Bandon on Highway 101. One of my favorite places to go when I'm looking for those herbal needs. And of course, Oregon Firearms Federation. Kevin Starrett, he was on Lars Larson today. He did a heck of a job talking about those phony gun groups. He was on I think it was last week. Yeah, I think he was on last week. We were talking about those phony gun groups. And don't fall for the phony gun groups. The only no compromise active gun group in Oregon is the Oregon Firearms Federation. If you want to give to a good gun organization, they have been fighting against Measure 114. They fought for the Second Amendment sanctuary ordinance. They spent a lot of money in court, and it takes a lot of money to fight the state, to fight your own government for your right. It shouldn't be that way, but it is that way. In Oregon Firearms Federation, they do a bang-up job defending your Second Amendment rights. Even though they're not my sponsors, I do like to brag about the Bandon Gun Club. The Bandon Gun Club is located here in Bandon, and they've got a 5-stand trap for your trap shooting needs. They also have a pistol range if you want to hone those skills on your pistol. I highly recommend it. You can catch them at bandongunclub.org. And of course, if you have a rifle and you want to go out and target practice with your rifle, go to Tioga Sports Park Association. You can get them at tiogasportspark.org. Once again, that's tiogasportspark.org. And whoa, that's already happened. Sorry, that's over. Oh my, I shouldn't have shown that. That's horrible. What am I thinking? Oh man, what a loser. He's got the worst score in the state for Liberty. Yeah, I guess we don't want to vote for him. So remember, tomorrow is the election. I highly recommend you get out there, check out your voters pamphlet, get your ballots in tomorrow. I wouldn't put them in the mail. I would actually go down to if you're living in Coos Bay or North Bend, you can go to the county clerk's website and they'll tell you where there's a ballot box. Here in Bandon, if you go to the Bandon Library, make sure that you take your ballot, make sure you put it in your envelope. Got to put it in your little envelope. And then the most important part is sign your envelope. Make sure and sign your envelope. I know some of you people forgot. Why? Because you were smoking pot when you were filling out your ballot. I don't know. I could understand why you might smoke some pot while filling out your ballot. That's probably one of the better reasons to smoke pot, because you're so disgusted with the choices you have. But if you do, would you please remember to sign the envelope, the security envelope on the outside. Yeah. Then put your little ballot, fill out your ballot, put it in the envelope, and make sure that you sign it, seal it, and deliver it to an official ballot box. I highly recommend that. Let's see. I got some comments here. Oregon Outlaw says, yep, the corporations will take over the industry now and destroy the small guy. Well, I don't know if that's true. I think there's a lot of competition out there. Like Herbal Choices is a small company. Lamoda is actually a small company as well. I just don't see that. I think the more competition we have, the less larger the corporations are in the industry. If you look at any industry where there's one corporation that has taken over that industry, such as Google and search engines, it's because the government has padded has interfered with the market so that those specific corporations can basically take over a certain industry, and that happens all the time. The gas industry was like that. So I don't know. That's why I think marijuana, to be quite honest with you, you should be able to grow it in your own yard. Here in Oregon, you can grow it outside. There are people I know who grow pot plants who've never gone to an Herbal Choices or any other dispensary to buy their pot because they grow their own pot. They know it's unadulterated and they pick it for themselves. So I'm not sure that the corporations will take over the industry and destroy that. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Gary Landry, if they can be drafted at 18, then yep, they should be able to buy cigarettes, alcohol, and weed. Gary, I agree with you. That's a smart man there. Yes, if you can go and fight for your country, carry your M16 into a heated battlefield, then you should have the right to drink alcohol and smoke weed. I would completely agree with that. I totally agree with that. That's what I'm about. Maximum freedom, limited amount of restrictions on the consenting adult. Those of you who are under 18, you shouldn't be anywhere near a battlefield. You certainly shouldn't be near cigarettes, alcohol, or weed. So if you're under 18, that's just the life you get. You're not the age of majority, but as soon as you are the age of majority, you will be able to do all those wonderful things, or not. And I would recommend the or not. Like I said, sobriety has a nobility of its own. Just don't become one of those sanctimonious, self-righteous bastards who preaches to the rest of us. Just remember, if you want to live a sober, more characterized life that's characterized by your sobriety, a life that's characterized by being the best person you can be, I think that's a great thing. As long as you don't preach to us about how great you are because, you're sober and because, you always do the right thing. I've got family members like that. It's real annoying. Oh, let's see here. Oregon Outlaw. He's got another one. Maybe at the county level, but I would not want cities getting more land. That was better than the state. And actually, I would rather see that land go onto the free market. So I would agree with you with this, Oregon Outlaw 2000. I think that land, if the state is going to give it up, you're right. Why is it going to the city? Is the city going to sell that on the private market? If that was the requirement, that the only reason the state would give it to the city is that the city would have to sell it on the private market, that's where I'd like to see all this land go. I mean, the state owns a lot of public land here in the state of Oregon. The federal government owns 54% of the state, and I would like to see a lot of that 54% of that land in this state, a lot of that go back into the private market. Let the people have access to that land. Let them buy that land so that they can build houses. The problem with our housing problem isn't the money, it's the restrictions, it's the regulations. We live in a state where they pass laws that don't make it easy to develop housing, to create housing, to construct housing. We live in a state that's anti-housing, and then they say, oh, we don't have enough houses. Well, yeah, because you don't allow anyone to build these houses, and part of that is land use laws and the fact that a lot of the land is locked up by the federal and state government. So I agree with you, Oregon Outlaw, on this one. The county and the cities, they probably should be getting this land back. That land should go into the free market. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, then he's making another point. BlackRock will buy it all up along with China. And that is always a possibility. Maybe maybe they can make a rule on it that only people, that these large corporations can't buy it first. Maybe there's some way of doing that. I don't know. But in the free market, that's the chance you take. And once again, if you look at BlackRock, a lot of the reasons that they got rich was because of the government itself. Government had it the way in the market so that BlackRock would have special exceptions and abilities to do things that a lot of other corporations couldn't do. And it's not right. It wasn't a fair playing field. And so maybe BlackRock should be restricted. And I think a state should have a right to do that, to say to huge corporations or China or countries who are communist countries that, no, you can't buy this property. We're going to put it up for auction, and only the citizens, not corporations, can buy these properties. That might be something, as a libertarian, I don't know how that would work exactly, because I think corporations are nothing but people, but there are some corporations that are so big that the corporation itself becomes an entity unto itself, and BlackRock, yeah, that's one of those corporations. So I don't know, maybe you could pass some rules that only certain entities like private individuals could buy those properties. I don't know, just something to think about. But I agree with you, though, that cities shouldn't be owning all this land, and I agree that the counties shouldn't be owning it, and certainly the state and the feds, they don't have any business to it, and none of your business. And people don't vote for the property tax increase. You would only be trading more and more freedom for supposed safety, which will not be realized. And I agree with you. If you're voting, don't vote for that tax increase. They're just going to take your money and leave you high and dry. Have you seen those commercials on TV? I've been watching, I think it was Fox News Station, and the sheriff has been doing commercials talking about how he needs the money. He needs our help. Please give him more money. But no matter how much money we give the sheriff, it's not going to change the laws, which are favorable to the criminal. We passed a lot of laws in this country, the cashless bail system, the fact that we don't really lock a whole lot of people up, we don't prosecute a lot of people, and they have destroyed the public defender's office so that people who can't get an attorney are being released onto the streets. A lot of these laws are being passed by the legislature, and I just don't think that giving more money to the sheriff and the DA is going to solve the problem. And if you look at the voters pamphlet, I want you to read very carefully on what this tax measure does and doesn't do, because if you read it all the way to the bottom of the paragraph, you will find out that the money, yes, the money from the taxes is going to the jail, but it's only going to go to the jail to offset the money that's going to the jail from the general fund. So literally, they're not going to give any more money or that same amount of money to the jail next year if they get the tax increase. They're just going to use the tax increase money. So is the money going to the jail, or is it really going to the general fund? And they're just using cost shifting to make it look like that money will go to the jail. I think it's the latter of that. So please read your voters a pamphlet. I'm voting no against the tax. I really, I shouldn't tell you how to vote. Vote the way you want, but that's just the way I'm voting. On None of Your Business, he says that tax money, extortion, would be better spent on home security and personal defense. Yes, Big Brother is more likely to harm you than help you. How much more evidence is needed? And I agree with him. There isn't a drug out there who's killed as many people as governments in the world. Governments, not just the U.S. government, but all governments in the very nefarious plans, and they're going to harm us much more so than drugs ever will. So, yeah. Let's see. He says that you don't want to increase taxes when so many people are homeless and already unable to keep up. The last thing we need is more property taxes on owners, which is passed on down to the renters. And that's true. I have renters, and if they put a tax increase on me, I'm going to pass that on to my renters. You're damn right. I'm not going to pay for a tax increase. It's not fair. I should have to pay for it as the property owner. I'm going to pass that down. It's just like our businesses as well. If you own a business and we have to pay more for the property, where the business is located, guess who's really going to pay that tax? You, the consumer. Not going to be the business owner. It's not going to be the property owner who owns the rentals. It's going to be the renter, and it's going to be the consumer. We have to pass those on because we can't afford to absorb those taxes. You know, just because people own property doesn't mean they're rich, and doesn't mean they have the money for higher taxes. So that's economics 101 there. So none of your business. I agree with you. And, you know, I'm going to have a show this Friday. I know I didn't have one last Friday because I spent my time with a beautiful young lady, my granddaughter, who, let me tell you, I am so proud of my little granddaughter. She is the apple of my eye. What can I tell you? She is the cat's meow. She wore us out. I've never seen a kid with so much energy. Maybe they all have that energy. I don't know. You know, it's if you could bottle that energy, I would love to bottle a little bit of it for me so I could spend more time with my granddaughter. So that's why I didn't have a show Friday. But this Friday, I'm going to be having a show, and of course next Monday. And if you want to stay in tune with what's going on, I highly recommend you go check out my website at Rob Taylor Report. Like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube page and to my Rumble page at Rob Taylor Report. But yeah, go check out my website, robtaylorreport.com. Sign up for the newsletter. There are a lot of things and events that I put in the newsletter that if I don't have a show or I can't do a podcast, at least you'll catch it in the newsletter. And I want to remind you all again, just in case you missed it, if you weren't on at the beginning of the show, this Memorial Day, we are having a rally against the Stop the Windmills rally. We're having a Stop the Windmills rally Memorial Day, one in Gold Beach at the county courthouse at high noon, and one at 2 p.m. at 711 Checo Avenue in Brookings. So we're going to be in two different places on Memorial Day, and please come out. Please bring a flag. I think I have a few extra windmill signs I can hand out. You're going to have to give them back to me because we need them for these protests. But on Memorial Day, we're going to have to Stop the Windmills rally. One in Gold Beach at high noon at the county courthouse, and then one at 711 Checo Avenue in Brookings at 2 p.m. And if you want to find out more, go to facebook.com, Oregonians Against Wind Turbines. That's once again, Oregonians Against Wind Turbines. And I will see you Monday. And until then, well, you know what I always say, carry on, America. Carry on.